It was a bright, sunny afternoon in Pinewood Hills. This was a small, quiet neighborhood where people usually kept to themselves, or at least that's what I thought. My name is Jake. I'm just a regular guy who loves messing around with cars. I like fixing them up, making them run better, and sometimes just sitting in my driveway with a wrench in my hand. That day I was doing exactly that. My car radio was on, playing some fun songs. It wasn't super loud, not like a big party or anything. Just loud enough to keep me happy while I worked. The music made me tap my foot and hum a little. I liked it that way. But not everyone did. Oh no, someone was watching me and she didn't like my music one bit. Her name was Karen. She lived a few houses down and she acted like she was the queen of the whole street. You know the type, always bossing people around, telling them what to do like she owned everything. She walked around with her nose in the air, her flip-flops slapping the ground and a frown stuck on her face. Everyone called her the HOA queen. HOA stands for Homeowners Association, this group that makes rules for the neighborhood. Karen loved those rules. She loved them so much she'd march up to people's houses and yell if their grass was too long or their mailbox was the wrong color. She thought she was in charge of us all. That afternoon, I was minding my own business. My hands were greasy from the car engine and I was wiping them on an old rag. The sun felt warm on my back and the music was just right. I didn't think anyone would care. I mean, it was my driveway, my car, my radio. Who would get mad about that? But Karen did. She always found something to complain about. If it wasn't the noise, it'd be the way I parked or how my trash cans looked. She was like a hawk, always circling, waiting to swoop down and peck at you. Here's the funny part, though. Karen thought she knew everything about me. She saw me out there with my tools and my music, and she figured I was just some guy. Some nobody she could boss around. She'd squint at me from her porch, her arms crossed, muttering stuff under her breath. "That Jake kid," she'd say loud enough for me to hear, "he's trouble, doesn't follow the rules." She didn't like that I didn't jump when she snapped her fingers. Most people in Pinewood Hills just nodded and said, "Yes, Karen," to keep her quiet. Not me. I'd smile and wave, and that made her even madder. What she didn't know, what nobody knew yet, was that I had a secret, a big one. I wasn't just some random dude with a wrench and a beat-up car. Nope, there was more to me than that. Something special was hiding under my old baseball cap and greasy t-shirt. And that secret, it was about to shake things up in a way Karen never saw coming. Her perfect little world, where she got to yell and point and make everyone listen, was about to flip upside down. And I couldn't wait to see her face when it happened. Let me paint you a picture of that day. My driveway is small, just a slab of concrete next to my house. My car was parked there, an old red pickup truck I'd been fixing for weeks. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. I'd pop the hood open and all the shiny metal parts would glint in the sunlight. Tools were scattered around, screwdrivers, a hammer, some pliers. I liked the mess. It felt like home. The radio sat on a little stool next to me, buzzing with a song I knew all the words to. I'd sing along sometimes, not too loud, just under my breath. The air smelled like oil and grass, and a soft breeze rustled the trees. It was peaceful, perfect even. Then came Karen. I didn't see her at first. I was too busy tightening a bolt, my head half under the hood. but I heard her before I saw her. That sharp, loud voice cut through the music like a knife. "Jake," she shouted. I poked my head up, blinking in the sunlight. There she was, marching across the street, her flip-flops smacking the pavement with every step. She wore a big floppy hat and sunglasses that made her look like a movie star. Except movie stars don't yell at people about radios. Her arms were swinging and her mouth was already moving, ready to tell me off. I stood up straight and wiped my hands on my jeans. "Hey, Karen," I said, keeping my voice nice and calm. I didn't want a fight, not yet anyway. She stopped right at the edge of my driveway, like there was an invisible line she would cross. "What do you think you're doing?" she snapped, pointing at the radio. "That noise is driving me crazy. This is a quiet neighborhood, Jake, quiet, and you're ruining it." Her voice was loud enough that a couple of birds flew out of a nearby tree. I bet they were scared of her too. I tilted my head and looked at her. "It's not that loud," I said, "just some music while I work." I even turned the volume down a little, just to show her I wasn't trying to be mean. But Karen didn't care. She shook her head so fast her hat almost fell off. "No, no, no," she said. "You don't get it. There are rules here, rules, and I'm not going to let you break them." She pulled her phone out of her pocket and waved it at me. "I'm calling the police. They'll make you stop." I just shrugged. "Okay, Karen," I said. I didn't argue. I didn't yell back. I just watched her stomp off, her flip-flops slapping louder than ever. She thought she'd won already. She thought the cops would roll up, tell me to turn off my radio, and that'd be the end of it. She thought I'd be embarrassed, maybe even scared. But here's the thing, she didn't know what I knew. She didn't know the cops weren't coming for me. They were coming for something else, something bigger, and I wasn't worried one bit. See, I'd been in Pinewood Hills for a few months now. I moved in with my truck, my tools, and not much else. People waved when I drove by, but they didn't really know me. I liked it that way, kept things simple. I'd nod back, say hi, and go about my day. Karen, though, she'd been watching me from the start. The first week, she came over to tell me my trash cans were too close to the curb. The next week, she said my truck was an eyesore. I didn't mind. I'd laugh it off and keep working. But every time she bossed me around, I'd tuck a little note in my head. I was paying attention, and I was waiting. That day, with the sun shining and the radio playing, was different. It wasn't just another afternoon. It was the day everything would change. Karen thought she was the smartest person on the block. She thought she could scare me with her rules and her phone call, but I had something she didn't expect. A secret so good it made me smile just thinking about it. What was it? Well, I'm not telling you yet. You've got to stick around to find out. Trust me, it's worth it. Picture this, me standing there, leaning against my truck, the radio still humming softly. Karen's gone now, back to her house to call the cops. The street's quiet again except for the birds chirping and the leaves rustling. I'm not mad, I'm not scared, I'm just waiting because I know something coming, something big. And when it gets here, Karen's going to wish she'd left me and my music alone. So are you curious yet? Can you guess what my secret is? Don't worry if you can't, I'll tell you soon. But here's a hint, it's not about the radio. It's not about the car. It's about something way bigger than that. Something that's going to make Karen's jaw drop and her eyes pop out. And when it happens, you'll be glad you stuck around to see it. So keep watching, okay? The fun just getting started. So there I was, standing in my driveway, humming along to my music. The sun was shining and I was happy, just messing with my car like always. My hands were greasy from the engine and I had a little smile on my face because the song was one of my favorites. Everything felt good until Karen showed up. Oh boy, did she ruin the mood fast. She came storming over like a tornado wearing flip-flops. Her feet slapped the ground loud and her face was all red like she'd been holding her breath too long. She stopped right in front of me, put her hands on her hips and barked, "Turn that noise off." I froze for a second, surprised. Her voice was so loud it made my ears hurt. "This is a peaceful neighborhood," she yelled, "and you're ruining it with that awful racket." She looked at my radio like it was a monster or something. I didn't get why she was so mad. It wasn't even that loud, just some fun tunes to keep me company while I worked. I took a deep breath and tried to stay calm. "It's not that loud, ma'am," I said real nice, wiping the grease off my hands with an old rag. I even turned the volume down a little to show her I wasn't trying to fight. But Karen, she wasn't having it, not one bit. Her eyes got all narrow and she took a big step closer. Then she pointed her finger right in my face, so close I could almost feel it poke me. "No," she snapped. "I'm calling the police. You'll learn to respect the rules around here." Her voice was sharp, like a teacher scolding a kid who forgot his homework. She acted like I'd broken some giant law, like my music was the worst thing ever. I could see her shaking a little, she was that mad. She pulled her phone out of her pocket and held it up like a weapon, ready to dial 911 right then and there. I didn't say anything back, I just smiled. Yup, a little grin right there on my face. See, Karen thought she had me figured out. She thought I was some punk kid, some troublemaker she could scare with her big words and her phone call. She figured I'd beg her to stop or turn the radio off real quick, but I didn't. I wasn't scared at all. Why? Because I'd dealt with worse than her before. Way worse. People yelling at me. That was nothing new. I'd faced bigger problems than a lady in flip-flops freaking out about a song. So I just stood there, calm as could be, watching her get madder and madder. She didn't like my smile. Oh no, that made her even angrier. Her face got redder and she huffed, "You think this is funny? We'll see who's laughing when the cops get here." Then she turned around and stomped off, her flip-flops smacking the pavement loud with every step. She was already pressing buttons on her phone, muttering stuff like, "I'll show him," and breaking all the rules. She marched back toward her house, acting like she'd just won a big battle. To her, my radio was the crime of the century, like I'd robbed a bank or something crazy. She thought the police would roll up, tell me off, and she'd be the hero of Pinewood Hills. But here's the thing, she didn't know what was really going on. Not even a little bit. While she was busy yelling and dialing, trouble was already brewing, and not for me, for her. Yup, you heard that right. Karen thought she was in control, but something big was sneaking up behind her and she didn't have a clue. I could feel it in the air, like when you know a storm's coming even though the sky's still clear. Something was about to happen, and it wasn't going to go the way she planned. Let me set the scene for you. My driveway was quiet now except for the soft hum of the radio. The sun was still warm and a little breeze moved the leaves on the trees. My truck sat there with the hood up, tools all around it, shining in the light. I leaned against the side of the truck, arms crossed, just waiting. I wasn't worried, not one bit. Karen's house was down the street, and I could see her packing on her porch, talking fast into her phone. She kept pointing toward me, waving her arms like she was telling the cops a wild story. I bet she said stuff like, "He's so loud, and he won't listen." She probably thought they'd rush over any second to back her up. But I knew something she didn't. My secret was buzzing in my head, making me feel strong. I wasn't just some guy with a radio. No, there was more to me than that, and it was going to come out soon. Karen thought she could push me around because I didn't fight back right away. She thought I was weak, easy to scare, but I wasn't sweating her threats. I'd seen people like her before, loud, bossy, thinking they're the boss of everything. They always think they'll win, and they're always surprised when they don't. The air felt thick now, like something big was about to drop. I could almost hear it, like a train coming closer, even though the street was still. Karen didn't feel it. She was too busy being mad, too busy thinking she'd beat me. She didn't know the cops weren't her big win. They weren't coming to save her day. Trouble was already on its way, and it had her name on it, not mine. I wiped my hands on my jeans again and took a deep breath. Whatever happened next, I was ready. Karen, not so much. So there I stood, humming again, soft and quiet. The radio played on, just a whisper now. Karen was still on her porch, yelling into her phone, sure she'd get her way. But I knew better. I knew the real story hadn't even started yet. And when it did, oh boy, she was in for a shock. A big one. Stick around, you'll see why. About 10 minutes after Karen stomped off with her phone, I saw them, flashing lights. Red and blue, blinking bright against the sunny street. A cop car rolled up slow and stopped right in front of my driveway. I leaned against my truck, watching. My radio was still on, but super quiet now, just a tiny hum. I wasn't worried, not yet. Then Karen came waddling out of her house fast, like a duck chasing bread crumbs. She had this big smirk on her face, like she'd just won $1 million or something. Her arms were crossed tight, and she looked at me with her nose all high. "See," she said, loud and proud. "I told you I'd get you in trouble." She stood there, gloating, acting like she was the smartest person ever. I didn't say anything back. I just watched her, keeping my face calm. The cop car door opened and an officer stepped out. He was tall, like a basketball player, and his face was serious. No smiles, no jokes. He walked over to me, his boots clicking on the pavement. "Sir," he said, his voice deep and steady, "we got a call about a noise complaint." He glanced at my radio, sitting there on the stool, barely making a sound now. His eyes flicked over my truck too, with the hood up and tools all around. I nodded, nice and easy. "Yeah, that's me," I said, "just working on my car." I wiped my hands on my jeans, leaving little grease smudges. I wasn't trying to hide anything. I mean, it was just music, right? No big deal. But Karen couldn't wait to jump in. She waddled closer, her flip-flops smacking loud, and pointed at me. "Officer," she shouted, like she was in charge. "He's been disruptive all day long with that noise. Arrest him." Her voice was so loud I bet the neighbors heard it through their windows. She crossed her arms again, smirking even bigger, sure she'd won. The cop didn't move fast. He just raised one eyebrow like he wasn't sure what to think. He looked at Karen for a second, then back at me. "Mind if I ask a few questions?" he said, pulling a little notepad from his pocket. I shrugged. "Go ahead," I told him. I wasn't scared. I had nothing to hide, at least not about the radio. The cop nodded and started writing something down real slow. He asked me stuff like, "How long you been out here? And was the music loud before?" I answered simple. "A couple hours," I said, "and nah, not really loud." Karen kept huffing and puffing, like a dragon ready to breathe fire. "He's lying," she snapped. It was so loud I couldn't think. She waved her arms around, making it sound like my radio was a big monster waking up the whole town. The cop just kept writing, not saying much. But here's the thing Karen didn't see: something sneaky was happening. While she was busy yelling at me, another cop car pulled up. Yup, a second one. It rolled in real quiet, like a cat sneaking through the grass. It stopped behind her house, where she couldn't see it from where she stood. I saw it though. The flashing lights were off on that one, but I could tell it was a police car. 2 cars for my little radio. That didn't add up. Something weird was going on. The first cop, the tall one, kept talking to me, but I noticed he wasn't looking at me all the time. Nope, his eyes kept sliding over to Karen, just quick little glances, like he was checking on her instead of me. That made my stomach tingle, not in a scared way, but in a something up way. The air felt heavy, like before a big rain, full of secrets waiting to spill out. Karen didn't notice any of it. She was too busy talking, telling the cop how bad I was. He doesn't follow rules, she said. He thinks he can do whatever he wants. She pointed at me again, her finger shaking a little. The cop nodded at her, but he didn't look mad at me. He scribbled more in his notepad, real calm. I stayed quiet, just watching. I could feel it. Something big was coming. Not for me, though, for her. My secret was itching in my head, ready to pop out, but I wasn't going to say it yet. I wanted to see what happened next. The second cop car's door opened, and another officer got out. This one was shorter, with a clipboard in his hand. He didn't come over right away. He stayed by Karen's house looking at something on that clipboard. I couldn't see what it was, but he kept flipping pages like he was reading a list. Karen didn't turn around. She didn't even know he was there. She was too busy staring at me and the first cop, waiting for him to yell at me or put me in handcuffs or something. But he didn't. He just kept asking questions, slow and easy, like we were chatting about the weather. I leaned back against my truck, crossing my arms. The sun was still warm and a bird chirped somewhere nearby. Everything looked normal, but it didn't feel normal. The tall cop glanced at Karen again, longer this time. His face didn't change, but I could tell he was thinking hard. "You live here alone?" he asked me. I nodded. "Yup, just me." Karen butted in again. "He's a troublemaker, officer. You should check his record." She sounded so sure, like she knew everything about me. But she didn't, not even close. That's when I saw the second cop start walking. He was coming around the side of Karen's house, slow and quiet, still holding that clipboard. My heart beat a little faster, not because I was scared, but because I was excited. Whatever was on that clipboard, it wasn't about my radio. I could feel it. The tall cop saw the other one too. He didn't say anything, but his eyes flicked over quick, then back to me. "Hang on a sec," he said, holding up one finger. He turned his head just a little, like he was listening for something. Karen kept talking louder now. "See, he doesn't even care. Arrest him already." But the cop wasn't listening to her anymore. He was watching the other officer, who was getting closer. The air got thicker, like it was holding its breath. I stayed still, waiting. Karen thought she'd called the cops on me, but something told me they weren't here for my music. They were here for something else, something about her. And I was just waiting for the right moment to see it all unfold. The tall cop was standing there, scribbling something on his little notepad. He had that serious look on his face, like he was figuring out a puzzle. Then he stopped writing and looked up at me. "You're Jake, right?" he asked. "Jake Carter." His voice was calm, but his eyes were sharp, like he was waiting for something. I nodded, nice and easy. "Yup, that's me," I said, leaning against my truck. My hands were still a little greasy, but I didn't care. I just watched him, curious about what he'd say next. Karen was standing a few steps away, her arms crossed tight. When she heard my name, she rolled her eyes so hard I thought they might fall out. Yes, that's the troublemaker, she huffed, her voice loud and annoyed. She pointed at me again like she was telling the cop to hurry up and arrest me. She had that smug look on her face, the one she always wore when she thought she was winning. Her flip-flops were planted firm on the ground and she rocked back and forth a little, like she couldn't wait to see me in trouble. He's the one you need to deal with, she added, nodding fast. But then something happened. The cop's face changed. It wasn't big, just a tiny shift, like a light turning on. He didn't look mad or ready to yell at me, nope. He took a step closer, real slow, and leaned in a little. His voice got quieter, almost like a whisper. "Mr. Carter," he said, "you're not in trouble." He paused for a second, letting that sink in. Then he dropped the big surprise. "We're actually here because of her." He nodded his head toward Karen, just a little tilt, but it was enough. Karen's smug grin gone, poof, like someone popped a balloon. Her mouth opened and her eyes got wide. What?" she stammered, her voice all shaky now. She blinked fast, like she didn't hear him right. She took a tiny step back, her flip-flops scuffing the pavement. Her hands fell off her hips, hanging there like she didn't know what to do with them. She looked at the cop, then at me, then back at the cop. "What do you mean?" she said, her voice getting high and squeaky. That's when the second cop walked over. He'd been by Karen's house with that clipboard and now he was coming to join us. He was shorter than the first cop, with a serious face too. He held the clipboard tight, like it was full of secrets. "Ma'am," he said to Karen, his voice loud enough for me to hear, "we've been investigating complaints about you." He flipped a page on his clipboard and started reading. "Turns out you've been breaking HOA rules left and right." He looked up at her, his eyes steady. "Illegal fence, unreported construction, even dumping trash on neighbors' lawns." I couldn't help it, I laughed. Yup, right there in my driveway. I let out a big loud laugh. It just burst out of me because it was too funny not to. Karen's jaw dropped so low I thought it might hit the ground. Her face went from red to white, like all the color ran away. She stared at the second cop, then at the first one, her mouth moving but no words coming out. She looked like a fish out of water, flapping around with nothing to say. That's not true." She finally squeaked, but it didn't sound like she believed herself. The tall cop nodded, like he'd heard her try that before. He put his notepad back in his pocket and crossed his arms. "We were already on our way when you called about the radio," he said, looking right at her. Then he smiled, just a tiny one, but it was there. "Funny how that worked out, huh?" His voice was calm, but it hit her like a big wave. Karen's eyes got even wider and she shook her head fast. No, no, no," she said. "You're here for him, for that noise." She pointed at me again, but her hand was trembling now. I laughed again, quieter this time. I couldn't stop smiling. See, Karen had called the cops on me, thinking she'd get me in big trouble. She thought they'd roll up, yell at me about my radio, and she'd be the hero. But nope, they were here for her all along. The whole time she was yelling and dialing 911, they'd been coming to check on her, not me. It was like a big joke, and she didn't even know she was the punchline. The second cop flipped another page on his clipboard. "We've got reports," he said, "from lots of neighbors. They've been watching you for weeks." He pointed toward her house. "That fence you built, too tall, against the rules, and that shed in your backyard, you never told the HOA about it." He kept going, listing stuff like he was reading a grocery list. And the trash, people saw you dump it behind Mr. Wilson's place. That's not okay. Karen's face was all scrunched up now, like she'd eaten something sour. This is crazy, she shouted, her voice cracking. I didn't do any of that, you've got the wrong person. But the cops didn't look like they believed her. The tall